Hello everyone and welcome. Today we're going to dive into something called psychoacoustics, which is really just the hidden science of how your brain actually hears the world. So let me just ask you a question right off the bat. What if the way you hear isn't some perfect high-fidelity recording of what's actually happening around you? Because here's the thing. Your ear is absolutely not a perfect microphone. It's this incredibly complex biological machine. And just like any complex machine, it doesn't just passively record sound, it actively interprets it. It has its own very specific set of rules.
And it's those rules that lead to some really strange, really fascinating glitches in how we perceive things. So today, we're going to pull back the curtain and see what's going on.
Okay, so let's start with your ear's biggest secret. It totally plays favorites. It doesn't treat all sounds the same, not even close.
Take a look at this. It shows our threshold of hearing. The easiest way to think about it is like a big bowl. See, for the really low bass sounds and the really high-pitched treble sounds, you need to crank up the volume, a higher decibel level, just to hear them. But right there in the middle, where the bowl dips down, our ears are incredibly sensitive. They barely need any sound energy at all. Now that sweet spot at the bottom of the bowl, that's right between 2,000 and 5,000 hertz. That's the frequency range where our hearing is just at its absolute sharpest.
And there is a powerful reason for this. It's not random. That exact frequency range is where you find the most important parts of human speech. And, thinking way back, it's also the exact range of a baby's cry. Our hearing literally evolved to be specialized for the things that matter most for our survival.
Okay, so our ears are specialized. But how do scientists even figure out the quietest possible sound a person can hear? Let's take a look at how they find the absolute limits of our hearing. Well, there are two main ways they do it. The first is called minimal audible pressure, or MAP. That's where they use headphones to test one ear at a time. The second is minimal audible field, or MAF, and that's where they test both of your ears at once using a loudspeaker in a super-controlled room. Now, here's where it gets weird. For decades, scientists kept noticing the same thing. When people were tested with two ears using loudspeakers, they could hear sounds that were 6 to 10 decibels quieter than when they were tested with just one ear and headphones. Their hearing was just better, way more sensitive. But why, right? Why are two ears so much better than just adding them together? It's a famous puzzle in this field, sometimes called the missing 6 dB. Just hang on to that thought, because we are definitely going to come back and solve that mystery in a little bit. Okay, but first, let's explore another one of these little quirks, because our hearing isn't just about what's the quietest sound we can hear, it's also about detecting the smallest change in sound. And this is all governed by a cool principle called Weber's law. Now, it sounds complicated, but the idea is simple. It says that the smallest change you can actually notice, the just noticeable difference, isn't a set amount. It's all about the ratio. It's all relative. Let me give you a super clear analogy. Imagine you're in a dark room with just 10 candles lit. If I come in and add one more candle, you're going to notice it right away. The room definitely got brighter. Okay, but now, picture that same room, only this time it's already lit up by 100 candles. If I add just one more, you probably won't notice a thing. It's just lost in the glare. To get that same noticeable jump in brightness, I'd have to add 10 more candles. See? The ratio is what matters, 1 to 10 or 10 to 100. And our hearing works the exact same way with loudness. So our perception of loudness is all relative. But what about time? Because our auditory system has this other amazing trick up its sleeve. It can basically trade time for loudness. It's almost like a camera's shutter speed. This is called temporal summation. What it means is, for any sound that's super short, like less than a third of a second, your brain doesn't just register how loud it was at its peak. Instead, it kind of gathers up all the sound energy over that entire brief period. And this creates a really interesting trade-off. A super short little click or a pop actually has to be physically louder for us to hear it at the same volume as a sound that's a little bit longer. Your brain is summing up the energy, which means a short, intense sound can feel just as loud as a longer, quieter one. Okay, so we've looked at how our ears handle different pitches, how we perceive changes in loudness, and how time plays a role. Now, it is time to go back and solve that puzzle we left hanging earlier. Remember that missing 6 dB? That whole thing about why we're so much more sensitive when we're listening with both ears in a room compared to just one ear with a headphone? Well, it turns out the answer isn't just one thing.
It's actually three things all working together. First, your brain is smart. It combines the signals from both ears to create a clearer, stronger signal. Second, headphones actually trap what's called physiological noise, the sound of your own breathing or your heartbeat, which can actually cover up really quiet external sounds. And finally, when you're in a room, sound waves literally bounce off your head and your body, and that can naturally amplify certain sounds before they even get to your eardrum. So, mystery solved.
And that brings us to our last and, honestly, maybe the strangest glitch of all. It's all about how your brain processes time. Your brain can detect a tiny little gap between two sounds that's as short as 2 milliseconds. That is incredibly fast. But, and this is the amazing part, to figure out the order of those sounds, to know which one came first, your brain needs about 20 milliseconds, almost 10 times longer.
And this just perfectly sums up everything we've been talking about. Your brain can register that two things happened almost instantly, but it needs nearly 10 times as much processing time to figure out the sequence of events. It's this fascinating little delay that proves that hearing isn't just about detecting sound, it's about constructing a reality. Our brains are always working, behind the scenes, building our world one sound at a time.